Hey everyone, I'm really excited because I finally made some new clothes, namely a very bright workout collection. So that's what we're going to take a look at now. And the first make I'm going to show you is this one. It's a workout top made of moisture wicking maroon fabric. Now, when I did this, I was actually letting the fabric do the talking, and because this fabric is really hard to work with, I tried to make a workout top last year, but I had some real struggles when it comes to hemming because this fabric is really soft and supple. So I decided to listen to the fabric and do it a little bit different. Hence the design had very much were influenced by the actual fabric. So a couple of things to notice. First of all, I didn't hem it this time. Instead I used cuffs for the sleeves, and also I used cuffs at the waistband, the waistband cuff, and also, and I know this is probably a big divider, but I love it, I actually added tiny gathers around the sleeve. So yes, I've actually made a workout top using puff sleeves. Yeah, but I do think they're too big. They're quite subtle, but I do like the sort of I don't know, it's almost like a ready to wear inspired top in that way. So I thought it would be fun to go outside the sort of traditional athletic aesthetic when I did this top. And of course, you can see here is a mesh yoke. So I used a sports mesh that I picked up in Helsinki last year. And let's take a look at the back. Here you go. As you can see, I've made this yoke area even bigger in the back because I really like to contrast mesh fabrics and regular fabrics, and I was really lucky now to find meshes that quite similar, not exactly the same, but quite similar when it comes to the colorway. So that's a really nice touch. Now, when you're working with mesh inserts, you definitely don't want your seam allowance to flop back and forth because it definitely can show through. So ideally you want to top stitch or stitch down the seam allowance. That said, it's not always easy, but with a cover stitch machine it's definitely easier than a regular sewing machine because that tends to stretch out this very stretchy lycra fabric. So I used a narrow cover stitch to stitch down the seams, both in the back around here and in the front. And also the neckband is also made of the same fabric here, and again I stitched the seam down just to make sure that it looks really nice. And the neckband is actually made of the same fabric, so you can actually do that. You can use self fabric, but one thing is you really need to know is, if you're not using ribbing, is that the neckband should be quite narrow, because that will make stretching it out easier because it doesn't have the natural give that a regular ribbing has. So a narrow neckband using the same fabric as the top, and then I also stitched down it again using the cover stitch. So that's really nice touches. I love that the mesh and the fabric goes so well together, so I really lucked out on this. So this is my first top, and well, I'm very happy about this one. But you can't just wear tops at the gym, so I also made a pair of leggings. Now these are really colourful. If you follow me for a while, you know that I do like my blacks, my blues and my greys. I have a fairly muted palette, apart from a little splashes of red here and there. But this was a total different aesthetic for me. But I just felt that this was fun to try out and see if I can actually jive with this sort of fabric. And you know what? I'm really happy with how it turned out. The fabric is, as you can see, it's really colourful, and the good thing about it is it's actually all the different shades of the print actually goes really nice together to all of the makes that I've done. So this is definitely a leggings that is actually quite easy to match with my other clothes. And the leggings are quite simple. It's just inseam, no outseam. I usually, if I can, I just like to do a very simple leggings pattern. I drafted this pattern myself, and the waistband is wide and nice because I really like that. And I use the same fabric from the outside, but inside I actually like to line my fabric using Supplex because it's much softer. Sometimes this you know, outerwear leggings fabric can be a bit slippery or a bit shiny. I don't really like that close to my body. I prefer something a little bit more cotton-like, if that makes sense. And Supplex is definitely way more cotton-like, though granted it's still synthetic fabrics. And of course I also put a pocket in the waistband because that drives me crazy when they don't put pockets on ready-to-wear leggings. I can totally understand why, because it probably adds a lot to the production cost. But it's definitely a reason, another reason why it's really nice to do our own activewear, because then we can actually put the pockets if we want them. As for the waistband technique, I actually described this particular technique in my book Sewing Activewear, and this waistband construction is a bit different from what you usually find in home sewing patterns. So it's a little bit more steps, I would say, but it's also yields, I would say, a nicer result than the more simple ones, and it's also reinforced using elastic. So that's also one of the reasons why I really like to use this professional technique rather than the more simple ones that you can do if you follow most regular leggings instructions. So that's definitely worth checking out if you want to sort of try out those garment industry techniques for your ready-to-wear. I got tons of those in my book Sewing Activewear. And I think this is probably the time that I feel the most happy about the waistband shaping, because I like them to be high in the back and slightly curved down in the front, and that is not really easy to create actually when you're drafting your own patterns. It's actually quite hard, but I definitely feel now I'm quite close. I need to remove a little bit of width in the back, because I have a very pronounced sway back, so there's a little bit of excess fabric there, but it's not too bothersome, and I've just actually tweaked it on my master pattern. So I would say I'm at the point now where I'm 99% happy with my own drafted legging pattern. So if you are having struggles, I actually recommend that you start experiment drafting your own leggings pattern, because to be honest, it's probably one of the most easiest pattern to start learning, because there are so few pieces to go into it. So you just really need to get the crotch shaping right and the length of the crotch. So if you have a pair of ready-to-wear leggings that fits you nicely, you can usually use that as a guide when it comes to the crotch length and all that stuff. So apart from that, I would say it's a fun project to start learning pattern making with. And I also made another top. This is a long sleeve top that I'm planning to use primarily for my running. So it also has my trademark cuffs with thumb holes. This is a really simple method that again mimics ready to wear, but it has removed one of the more tricky steps. And again, I describe this in my book Sewing Activewear if you're curious to know exactly how I make these cuffs with thumb holes. And the pattern I used from this one is not something I drafted myself. Instead, it's from Jelly, which obviously makes great activewear patterns. It's called Valerie, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And I can highly recommend if you're looking for a really fitted raglan sleeve base layer top. And this is actually the second time I'm using this pattern. I also used it for a long sleeve sweater for my daughter. Again, turned out beautifully, fitted her beautifully. It's definitely close fitting, so you need to use really stretchy fabric. So as you can see, this one is quite snug, and to be honest, perhaps I should have graded up a little bit on the sizing, but overall it's absolutely so well drafted. Everything goes together top notch. And in order to mimic some of the aesthetic of ready-to-wear workout tops, I used the reverse cover stitching on my regular cover stitch machine, so you can see it's a very decorative seams, both on the side seams and at the sleeve seams. And the standout thing I think is the fact that I used woolly nylon in the looper. So this is a great thread from Madeira called Aeroflock. It's actually polyester, not woolly nylon, but it's a sort of fluffy thread that gives a really decorative effect. So if you want to create something similar, I highly recommend that you experiment with these woolly nylon threads in the looper if you want to sort of mimic ready-to-wear activewear. And I showed this technique and all other cover stitch technique in my new book Master the Coverstitch Machine that is out now, very exciting. There you can see more in detail how I do this reverse cover stitching technique and all the other stuff that you can do with this really fantastic machine. And last but definitely not least, I made a fleece jacket. Now, speaking of strong colors, this fabric I found in a store here locally. It's factory second, so it has a little bit of snags here and there, but it wasn't too hard to work with. Anyways, this is absolutely crazy, but I love it. If you look up close, you will see that it has like a really interesting pattern. It's almost a bit retro looking in a sort of vague way, and it's a really stretchy lycra, so I've made it quite fitted. And I also added some really nice detailing, such as zipper pockets. Love those, right? And the zipper front is actually two-way, because that's really nice, because when you're working out using fleece jackets and stuff like that, you tend to get a bit warm after a while, right? So it's nice to let out some air here and there, which is something I'm very, very fond of myself. Again, I used my trademark cuffs with thumb holes, using the same method I talked about with the top from my book, Sewing Activewear. And also the hoodie is very, very large, and I wanted to make a slightly oversized hoodie, but I think I made it a little bit too big. But it's actually quite nice to have one, because I've in the past, since I draft a lot of my own patterns, sometimes there are a lot of things to consider that I actually forget to consider, namely stuff like exactly how large should a hood be. So I ended up in the past doing some hoods that was actually slightly too small, so especially if I wanted to have like a hat or a cap inside. So this one I went straight to the other direction and made it a little bit too big, but in the end I think that it's a better option. What else can I say about this? It has drawstrings, very simple, and also I lined it with the same fabric as the long sleeve top that I just showed you. So everything goes together really nicely in that way. So this was my 4-piece workout collection. Now I'm really excited because I definitely think this could give me a much needed boost in the gym, because to be honest it has been a bit of a slog lately, usually because I get that when the winter has been long, but I can finally sense now that spring is coming. So it's really nice to have a rather colorful workout collection to wear at the gym, because I do work out quite a bit, so I try to make sure that the clothes that I make is also somewhat inspirational for my workout routine. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe for weekly sewing videos. You know where to find me. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.